All right. How do we sound? How are we feeling? For anybody who hears this in podcast format, just know that we tried to launch and had tech issues again or whatever. Uh, I I had just gotten far enough into I don't know, exploring territory that I've not been comfortable talking about on the show before. So I'll leave me in the corner here just as long as everybody agrees that you're able to hear me, then we'll feel okay, right? Um oh no. People are saying maybe not much on the audio. That would be a bummer. Still a bit choppy. Yeah. I mean, I want to get this right. Um Says it was fine with the solo shot with no overlays. So I don't know. That I don't know. So maybe this will just be a radio show, and we could just talk and moment of honest connection. Um, um, so for 2 months, I've not talked about it. Um, but we lost Kepler 2 months ago. Um, and that's hard. Losing a dog that you love is always hard. Uh, what's really hard is stuff being complicated because you know your dog is defensive and aggressive, and it's fine when he's barking at the neighbors. It's fine when he's wanting to chase other animals or whatever. Um, but in this case, Kepler was starting to show signs of aggression to Callie, our youngest, 7 years old. Uh, and I remember, I remember waking up and having the door kicked open, and very clearly it was Callie. And I'm like, I'm just gonna keep these eyes closed, and I'm just gonna wait to see if she's really got something or not. And she very clearly had nothing. She was just looking for entertainment. And um uh and so then I heard her leave. Uh and then I heard that delightful early morning chitter chatter that happens as the house as a whole wakes up. Uh let me make you these. Let me get you two of these or whatever. And then I heard uh barking and screaming and crying. And instantly in that moment, uh, I felt guilt about whether or not me keeping my eyes closed to find out whether or not Callie actually had anything for me or if she was just, trolling for attention was the thing. And then instantly realized that there was a serious situation happening. And so I had the entire run from upstairs all the way to downstairs to run through all of the scenarios of just how bad it might have been. Like, I'm already thinking her face, scars, reconstructive surgery, uh, And when I got downstairs, uh, thankfully it was an arm and not a face. Uh, but but almost with like a detached clinicity, I started to take photographs of her arm forensically. Uh, and I didn't know why I was doing it. And I realized now that what I was knowing that future Brian will forever not know if it was justified or not. But if you look at the photographs, I mean, her arm, 7-year-old girl, her arm is kind of split open, and more importantly, the bite marks are left, right, diagonal scratches, all that stuff. Um, like we we knew that Kepler could put on a show, but that was okay because he was our guy. And in that moment, he's not our guy. Um, so the worst part was Callie crying and just asking the same thing over and over again. Why did he bite me? Why did he bite me? Which is not a thing any 7-year-old should have to ask about the household pet. Uh, so I took all the photos and we immediately consulted a doctor who, to my surprise, did not recommend stitches, but we're at the height of the coronavirus. Um, uh, so she's gonna have scars forever, right? But like in that moment, I think that some degree I felt guilty for feigning sleep and then was suddenly made to realize the penalty for not being totally present. Um, I realized like all of these things happened all at once. I realized that I realized it was only going to get worse from here because we got with other aggressive dogs. And then you run through the scenario of rehoming a wonderful dog, which we successfully did with Ollie, who, for whatever reason, was terrified of kids. Uh, but, like, in that moment, it's like, I don't know what happens next, but Kepler goes away. So I, I went upstairs and I said to, once we assessed that, you know, our 7-year-olds, you know, did go to the ER, I went up to uh, both of my other daughters and basically, hey, Kepler full on attacked one of us, and it's bad. I mean, we're talking about like blood on the mound. I think she should have gotten stitches, that kind of thing. Uh, Kepler's gonna go. The only question you have is whether or not you want to take a moment to say goodbye. Um, and it was interesting because Penny first of all, screamed the word for 40 minutes straight. But Josie paused and said, no, I'd like to remember him as he was yesterday. And then I called the vet and talked about different options. The vet was not shy about explaining to me how even if we gave him up for adoption and rehomed him, we would be legally liable. Even if explained, this is a dog that can go aggressive or whatever. So Penny, after she was done shouting, came downstairs and sincerely said goodbye. Josie elected to remember our relationship as it was at its best. Callie had a doctor's visit through telemedicine online. And I realized that nobody but me gets to make this call. Because nobody but me loves this dog more. This is the dog where our regular ritual was after killers.
Yo!
Perfect timing, man. I'm telling everyone about Kepler.
Oh, okay. Oh, Jesus. So wait, you're in the middle of that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Sorry to yo my way into that one then.
I mean, it was kind of perfect. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of like, it's the most night attack way for this to go.
To get through that. Are you seeing me call you?
No, but I'm also not wanting to show my face right now, so to have the diamond thing going.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
I mean, you were there for the whole thing.
Yes. Well, I mean, not physically there, but you were. I was with you on the phone throughout everything.
You saw the picture, all that shit. Yeah.
Yes.
So I've gotten to the part where, it's an unambiguous attack on our own family, and I've talked to the vet, and we understand the options and the legal ramifications of rehoming and all of those things, and in the middle of the coronavirus and so on. And it's like I'm up to the moment where I realize that nobody can make this call but me. And and I make the call, and I call the vet, and the vet talks me through everything, and we get halfway to the vet, and the funny part was I mean, there was no changing how it was going to go, but I didn't like that Kepler seemed upset. So I did a U-turn, and we went out property, and it was one more walk. And my God, it's the hardest thing I ever did.
Well, I mean, their responsibility that comes along with being a father, right?
Yeah.
Like that is there is a cold finality to what it means to protect other humans. That
Yeah.
it is hardwired through us. And I bring that up just to illustrate what it means to when it is a binary decision like that, how swiftly you made it. This was not a long deliberation.
No.
This was a matter of hours from the inciting incident to its conclusion, if that, right? Maybe
Yeah.
even less than 2. And it's just it was the call that had to be made. And the fact that the solution was what it was, something that I know. I mean, I remember when you were telling me about it, like, I didn't even know. I can't remember what day of the week it was and like how close or far away we were from Night Attack or Happy Hour.
I think it was
But
Monday morning. I think it was Monday morning because, like, I knew I was like white knuckled, shell shocked because I just went through weird things and killers as if nothing happened, and even made it all the way through the second day or whatever. And it wasn't until like the third day, and what crushed me was when it was golden hour and I had nothing on my to-do list. And that was always the time that I took Kepler out for a walk. And
yeah,
yeah, that was hard.
I mean, I don't think we need to explain to the Night Attack audience how much you and your family loved Kepler, and there's not just in the framework of this particular conversation, the focus is going to be how much you loved Kepler. And to be honest, in my interactions with Kepler and your family, Kepler was your dog.
And
the girls
I think that's
the girls
hardest
loved
part,
the
right?
dog, but it was your dog.
Right. And I think that could have worked. Like, you can have a dog who's aggressive and protective. You can't, I can't have a dog that's aggressive and protective and also bites and slashes apart the arm of my 7-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Like, we used to joke about how, if Kepler could have any job, it would be a Secret Service agent. He wanted to immediately patrol the area, make sure everything's safe, sit and give you his full attention for what you're about to do next, and, remind you to keep on the schedule. Those are all great things. So becoming jealous of one of my children and bite slashing him.
Yeah, there was an L Kepler that, as he got older, became like the level of menace and aggression that he could switch into was troubling.
It was
like
a lot. And again, as long as alignment is fine. I mean, there are many. I mean, look, man, I don't mind having a dragon. I rather like having a dragon that is 100% dedicated to me and my family and protecting my family. I felt safe because we had a fucking dragon ready to go.
Yeah.
But then the dragon turned around and bit my 7-year-old, and not
well,
in
but
that
that's the thing,
whoopsie-doodle
is
way.
that you need to be able to set the parameters of who the dragon attacks. And it's one thing when, like, from my perspective, I'm not around a lot, right? So I could always get why Kepler was really aggressive and mean toward me.
Sure.
Like, but it was also something that wasn't changing, right? In fact, I'd known Kepler since he was a puppy, and there was the older he got, the meaner and more aggressive he got toward me.
Yeah.
And like when that's something where like that's on the outer fringes, right? That's like, like, all right, really from Kepler's perspective, what's the difference between Justin and a burglar? Like, you know, not that much. But when you can't set the perimeter, eventually it was going to be a problem, and eventually it became a problem. And ultimately that's you're not in a situation where, in a world where the property, the production facility that you have was remote or something that only you went to, you and very, very few people to, then maybe there's a world in which Kepler just lives there. Right. And that's a different thing. But even in that scenario, the property is only going to become more of a place where strangers show up.
Right.
More of a place where these kinds of situations were going to pop up. And it's heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking situation for everybody involved, because at that point, when you're faced with that stark binary choice, there is no decision to make.
Yeah. Well, and press pause on the to put this. There may be a decision for a future time that isn't now about whether or not there were other options that were not seen. But in that moment,
I don't think there were, to be totally honest. Like
I automatically, forensically, I started taking photographs, and I was like, who am I taking these photographs for? And I realized, oh, it's for future me when I ever doubt what I'm about to do.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's just no way you can hand him over to anybody with good faith that it's not going to be worse. Right?
And I think it makes it harder. So okay. So in the moment, the cold fire comes over me, right? And it's like, okay, I'm in dad mode, and here's a clear and present danger to family and to my little girl, and so let's just take care of this, right? And it's a few days later, and then I start like, oh man, I really miss that dog. The dog that loved me more than anyone, and that I loved more than any other dog. And now it's golden hour, and this is the part where we, go to the back 5 acres or whatever. It's how can I put it? There's like not just grief. It's a complicated flavor of grief. Because I don't know. I'm feeling the loss a lot right now. And I've noticed.
Is there a reason why you brought it up now or today? Was there an inciting that kind of brought it to the fore?
Because I don't like keeping secrets from our extended family, and I think that we really have been. We have elected to not share the complete truth, and
I will be honest. When this happened on a Monday, and I was like, hey, you just, you call the play, I'll back the play you make in terms of what we're talking about. And, because I know for us, oft times, we can sense where each other's thought patterns are going even before maybe they get there. And it's like, are we at a level where even if I think you're going toward a Kepler-esque thing, am I pulling you back Like, or am I letting you go? And you were like, absolutely, we're not talking about this until, a while,
Yeah.
indefinite. And I was like, in my head, I mean, what my words said were, of course, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. In my head, I was like, there's no way Ryan goes more than 24 hours without talking about this, because it's so traumatic. And this is like your release. I'm surprised that it has gone this long, but to me, it also shows, that this is its own unique trauma that you had to take time to work through.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really two separate traumas, right? It's like there's the story of daughter was attacked, and I'm the hero for stopping it and fixing it, whatever that means. There's also, story of the. I mean, and I think this would be accurate. Like, Kepler, out of all the dogs I've ever had, I don't think has ever been more wanting to please me and more in love with me, and thing, for that moment, and to have to make that decision. I don't know.
I mean, it tells you everything that anybody would need to know about you as a father, that you made that decision as quick as you made it. Like how much you care about your family, that this was not, and I don't know how much you've gotten into this, but like, this was a dad's making the decision, and we are suspending democracy for a dictatorship right now, because it's just a call that needs to get made. Like, for what happened with Kepler, and the rest of your family.
And I think in that moment, all of that felt right. I think what I'm feeling now is, I'm feeling a strange mix of guilt and selfishness, along with loss. Like it's been long enough now that, like, I'm feeling lost. Like I hide from the back part of the acreage, and I sat at golden hour because I know, how things are supposed to go, and I know who made the decision that that's not how things are anymore. And then and it's like, yeah, you did what you had to do to protect a beautiful young girl. Fine. Yeah, it is a bummer. Also fine. Do you get to wallow in the guilt months afterwards?
Of course you do. Of course you do. I mean, you have to process it, and the reason you made that decision at the speed that you did is because you understood inherently then that once that line is crossed, like, you can ignore, oh, he seems to be getting angrier. You can ignore, well, as long as he's protecting the people that we want him to protect, that's fine. And that is you giving Kepler every benefit of the doubt. And then as soon as that line is crossed, then what you understand inherently is, yeah, you would have had the golden hours, but they would have never been the same, because you would always, on some level, have it in the back of your mind that if this happens again,
right,
and maybe this time worse, that not only is that pain that you deferred going to be there again, but now you will have an active negligence. And let's say, God forbid, the damage is permanent to some level.
Well, and that was before you hopped in, like that 15-second run from upstairs to downstairs, long enough to think of everything might be, thankful enough to see it's just an arm. Let's hope it still works. And then, I mean, the rest plays itself out. But I guess I suppose part of the reason I shared this today is because now I'm dealing with the complicated feelings of like how do you allow yourself to feel sad for a loss that you with the bombardier's eyes of a fucking hangman allowed to make happen, you know, because or caused. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, but you didn't. I mean, and there's other metaphors that you can bring up in terms of, you know, yes, you, because he is a dog and you are a human, you had to drive him to justice, right? But the crime that was committed in your community, or the community of your house, is unforgivable. Like, it is, and Kepler does not have the cognitive reasoning to know, oh, that's a thing I can never do again.
Maybe that's part of why today is because, you know, we're starting to chat about like, well, what about another dog or whatever, and it's like it doesn't feel fair to move on without publicly grieving.
I mean,
for
that
Kepler.
that was when you said you wanted to talk about Kepler. You wanted to talk about, when I asked you, all right, well, let me know when, and you said when we start talking about another dog. Like, that was your stated advisory at the very beginning of all this.
Yeah.
And
so
I think,
and I did start to do that after Cord Killers and After Talk or whatever, and then people started sending nice emails or whatever, and I realized that I mean, it's a real bummer what he did and what he was growing into, but fuck. I mean, I love that dog, and it would be a lie for me to pretend I didn't, you know?
well, and that's the thing, is that you're not in a situation where, I guess all I would say is that literally this cocktail of emotions now, you did not cause it. Like, that situation laid it at your feet, and your only choice was, do I now begin the process of resolving what needs to be, my feelings about what needs to be done, or do I defer and compound it? Do I always have it in the back of my mind? And so it's like, again, it's your love for Kepler is something that will always be there. You know, we had a conversation about an unrelated thing yesterday about kind of how in life we need to sort of divide ourselves into different people, right? Into different roles. And as you get older and you find yourself dealing with different things, like you got to be, you know, Brian the boss and Brian the human. I had to Justin the journalist and Justin the husband, in terms of deciding to go out to Tulsa and then quarantining myself. And right now you're finding yourself in a situation where obviously Brian the dad had to supersede Brian the dog owner, but it doesn't mean that all of that pain isn't there. It means that you have to honor it and you have to understand it. And, you know, that's the only way that you can gain perspective from it. I don't even want to say move on, because I don't think that there's some trauma that we never really, moving on is such a weird metaphor in terms of making it healthy as it's going to be, making it work for you, making you, letting the pain get to a manageable volume where you can appreciate and love what made the bond strong to begin with. That's ultimately the point you want to get to, is when think about Kepler at golden hour, and it can be about those times the fun times that you had, the happiness that he had, and it's not about the fact that he's not there anymore. Like that is, and I do think part of it, Brian, is giving yourself, it is not running away from anything to think of yourself as detached in this situation. Because
yeah, no, I I certainly felt detached in that moment where it was like, I mean, this is not a choice. There's no, I just watched a fucking wild animal lash apart my child's arm. Like, there's no choice, you know?
yeah,
And, but now I'm to the part where, do I get to do that and then also boo-hoo for myself that I don't have him around anymore?
Absolutely you can. Absolutely you should. Because the you did not end Kepler. Kepler ended. I mean, it is, in terms of the moral responsibility,
Right.
It was the same as Kepler being struck by lightning.
Right.
Like, there was just a reality,
like ways to die. Bite a power line, get struck by lightning, bite, not just bite, but full on aggressively attack a 7-year-old of Brian Brushwood. That's those 3 ways. Yeah.
That's it, right? So if Kepler got struck by lightning, you wouldn't have these feelings of, you wouldn't be processing it in the same way. Unfortunately, this was just a more complicated version of that.
And maybe that's the part is, maybe that's why it's taken so long for me to get around to even admitting in public what's up. And I mean, I don't want to be judged or whatever.
I mean, look, I don't blame you for that. On the internet, when you live your life the way that we live, where you are admitting deep emotional things in your life to the public, you better be sure that even in things that you are unresolved on, you have some kind of firm moral footing. Like, because the internet is second guesses. It's full of people grafting their own experiences on top of yours. And that in one level of nature is human nature. But on the other hand, on the internet, it is multiplied X 1000, right? And it is all done by and large, the cruel medium of text, where you can read it in whatever tone that you want, and oftentimes it's the most self-destructive. So I don't blame you. In fact, I think it was a sign of emotional maturity that you did hold off on this for as long as you did, because I can't imagine what the situation would have been like if you have somebody who's popping off half-cocked and asking a really stupid question about all this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that it was an element of emotional maturity for you to at least be at a point where you're like, okay, I've come to peace with it, and now we're getting another dog, but I am still wrestling with the fact that my own responsibility to it and how that conflicts with my own sadness.
I mean,
like that's emotionally mature.
I suppose, and for the life of me, I mean, to be honest, if I was gonna guess, today happened to be the day because I had to start and there's nobody else in the room, and I had to talk about something, so it was what's on my mind. But I did feel like I owed it to Kepler to grieve honestly and publicly about. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's since I have had the privilege of being your friend and being around your family, it is I would say, from an outsider's perspective, in the top 5, if not the top 3 traumatic moments that you have had, that I have been around for. Like, that was a lightning strike of pain that ripped, that had, nobody was a bystander for, right? Everybody on some level was an active stakeholder. And that's hard. That's, you know, you made the right decision, and even that you are still paying for right now. Like, that's how traumatic the event was.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is the debt I owed, is to tell the story and do so honestly. And it's one of those things where, you hold off as long as you can, and then one day you turn on a live stream and there's nobody else around and your mouth just starts talking, and today's that day. But for what it's worth, if I can self-indulgently take a moment to eulogize Kepler, I've never had a dog who is so just dialed in and committed, and I mean, ultimately his impulses to protect became misguided, but it was pretty cool feeling like you had a fucking dragon. Like, of knowing that your kids were upstairs, and good luck to anybody who dare try to make it past the moat of downstairs. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm still having a hard time. Like, when it gets to be golden hour, I tell Bonnie, hey, I'm gonna practice, and my practice is to walk the back acreage or whatever. And whatever, dogs. I mean, you get another dog. And
No, I mean, Kepler was for a lot of different reasons extraordinarily important to not only your family but to you personally, because you got Kepler at a very a specific time in the girls' lives. Like, they were at a point where they were, A, all there, and B, all, kind of changing and growing at that rapid pace that age kind of demands. They had a different relationship to it, but also it was you kind of fully transitioning from, a guy who does some stuff on the internet to a guy who owns a property, right? And that's, I think, part of the reason why, Kepler was with you at your side, literally through all that, and was doing it. You were probably in a way that you can't even enjoy with another human, right? Like, you could just dump your own internal dialogue about all of that into this, sentient animal that was devoted. And that's hard. It's hard to let go of. It's what makes that decision as complicated as it was. It's what makes your decision, the speed of your decision, as admirable as it was, because of all this counterweight that you can now honor Kepler with, that you can now process. Boy, would it have been a position that would only become more desirable the more you thought about it, to figure it out and give him another chance and send him back to obedience school or whatever.
That's the temptation, is to believe that you can, that you could push it aside or work around it or whatever. But I mean, This was
And
this was a progression. He,
oh God,
you know,
yeah. Well, I mean,
he
yeah.
nipped a stranger, got it. That's the stranger's fault for reaching forward trying to pet him. He got old enough to start wrestling for dominance against sneakers, and that's understandable, except for, he doesn't seem to have a regulator on him and ends up just tearing apart. Like, sneakers still limps today. And then like we we saw the growth of the and progression of the aggression, and he showed signs ahead of time that made us start to think he's not thinking of jumping our 7-year-old, is he? And it's a weird thing to be thankful for, but if I'm thankful for anything, it's that it was totally unambiguous. I mean, like, if you look at the slashing patterns, let's not confuse a bite for an attack, and it was an attack.
And
I might straight up sneak into a backyard. If it was a neighbor's dog, I would have snuck into a backyard and straight up killed that dog.
Yeah. And ultimately it's like, this was the end of a tragedy. The Kepler situation was the end of something where you knew you had a relationship with the dog. The dog meant the world to you. It had the utilitarian use of, like you said, with like the dragon, like it's going to be as mean and aggressive to anybody that might dare to come in onto its territory. And the looming issue was, well,
as long as
I just hope he knows this is the boundary.
As long as he's our bastard.
Yeah. And it turned out he didn't. And it's like, well, then, there's no outthinking that. But again, I do want to just make clear to everybody, like, man, it would have been easy to say, let's try, and that would have been such a dangerous thought. I mean, it is such a dangerous thought, but it would have been a very seductive, very dangerous thought, specifically when, you've got these young girls that love the dog too,
Yeah. And
they don't get that responsibility side, right? They do want to look at Kepler as a sweet dog who could change, but the reality and consequence more specifically.
Somebody read between the lines and sent me. Do you remember that? How transcendent that George Robb sent one man and a piano performance of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon was at
Dragon
Con. Somebody said, like, oh, I'm sure you've heard this album or this song, whatever. And I listened to the song and I'm like, wait, does everything mean what I think it means? And then I found him doing a live version of it, and it's longer, and he explains a bunch of shit, but maybe we'll just go out with this. And I'm sorry to anyone who thinks I didn't handle things right. And I'm sorry to anybody who thinks that it's selfish for me to feel sad for the loss and also be the cause of it. But at the very least, this part, I oh goddamn, buckle up.
Belief systems are as individuals. My belief system is one of critical thinking and skepticism, and I happen to be an atheist, and I don't believe in afterlife. I don't believe in any kind of magical place after we're done here on planet Earth. which normally is great because it sort of lets you value the time you have, and you realize that, when I'm doing my 70, 80, 150 years are up, I will slough off this mortal coil and don the purple cloak, and it's fine. And it's easy to talk about that as a skeptic. It's easy to kind of just be like, yeah, that's all there is and that's all we have, and that's fine. The place where it gets difficult is when we as critical thinkers, we as skeptics, we as, if you are an atheist, start to think about loss. I said it's not a subject that we often talk about, grief and loss. And it's one of those things that, I'm going to use the collective noun because I think we're all on the same page, but our belief system is one that we never get to say, see? You know what I mean? People that believe in heaven, people that think that there is something afterwards, people that think that there is a Buddha, that there is Jesus, that there is whatever, some kind of reincarnation or whatever that is, they all sort of have in their back pocket the idea that at some point they'll be able to go, was I right? Yeah, is he? And we don't have that. We don't have that. We say, you know what? We're never going to know. We'll never be able to gloat. Which to me reinforces how vehemently we actually believe that. We believe it so much that we're willing to pay that price of, you know what, we never get to gloat, which is kind of cool. But what do we do when we lose someone? What do we do when someone that's close to us passes on, It's a bitch. It sucks. I had to deal with this. I had kids, but I did have a dog, and his name was Oscar, and he was a boxer. He was a boxer dog, and he was awesome. He was really, really cool. I'd never had a dog before. And he completely wrapped me around his big paw. He was the coolest little guy, and he was my best friend. And it got to that point where Oscar got sick, and he died, and we had to put him down. He got cancer, and we had to put him down. And boy, it was tempting to imagine him in puppy heaven, where biscuits are this big, where squirrels run really slow. It's like, come on, But it raised too many questions. It was like, wait a minute, if he's in puppy heaven, which would provide me a modicum of comfort, does he miss me? Because I'm not there. Like, does he miss his other puppy friends or misinformation? My partner, my friend. Does he miss us? Is there some doppelganger that's supposed to be us that's going to be there to satisfy him? Because I don't want that. I don't want some fake George there. I want, it raised too many questions. I wanted to feel and pay the price. Because if you have a pet, you know that it's a completely unselfish relationship the dog has with you. It legitimately is unconditional love. I mean, humans can't really have unconditional love. I mean, you can get close, but animals really can, because it's just they look at you and you are the pack leader and that is it. And what's the price of that? There's got to be up to that. And the price of that is that we have to watch it go away. It's the only relationship we enter into with a pet where we know exactly how it's going to end. And yet we do it because it's pretty damn cool in the meantime. So I struggled with this idea, and I realized this is my foxhole moment. This is my atheist in the foxhole moment. I'm not going to picture him crossing the rainbow bridge, chasing squirrels in puppy heaven. I'm not. I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him like a son of a bitch, because the hole in my heart is massive because he took a big chunk of it. So the only solace I found in thinking of how I can deal with this is that I get to miss him. He doesn't get to miss me because he's done. In that final moment when he closed his eyes, that's his eternity ever right there. He's tired and he thinks maybe at some point we'll wake up and we'll go for a walk. And that's exactly where I want him to be in just that final second. And I have to take the burden of missing him. And it's the same with loved ones, with husbands and wives and moms and dads and whatever. They get to go. They're done. They get to go. We get to carry the burden of missing them. So it took me a while, but I finally put it into song. This is called Small Comfort. I don't believe in heaven. I know that there's no hell. I don't think you've gone anywhere. that's just as well. I know there's no forever, and the last look in your eyes, it was the best and worst thing, to get to say goodbye to you. They say we're not supposed to comprehend, but I want to know more. Being there with you at the end was a pain I had hoped for. Did you know where you were going? Did you like the time you'd spent? I wish that you'd stayed longer, but that's not how it went. Now I know there's no forever, but of all the hearts I've met, I think the place we ended up was as close as one could get to you. They say we're not supposed to understand, but that doesn't help me watching you leave by my own hand with the cards that were dealt me. Some blame the dealer, some would blame the deal, some would make up stories that never could be real. I know when you left, you were glad to be back home. I think that you knew you would be alone. I've no need for heaven or some eternal bluff. I prefer what's real, and what I had here was enough. I'm glad I get to miss you, but that you can never miss me. Thinking you'll wake up and see us is your eternity. It's a small comfort